What's up, everybody? It is Logan from Survivor LU, and I'm joined with the most recent eliminated player, Nate. Nate, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Doing well. Love it. We're going to dive into Nate's game, see what he was thinking and feeling in certain parts of the game. So we can get started just with your initial thoughts as you walked up on the first day, saw those red shirts, saw those blue shirts, the process of being applying and then getting on the season, kind of as all that came together. What were you thinking as you walked up that first day?
I definitely didn't know what to expect. I didn't even
Yeah.
know College Survivor was a thing before I saw the poster.
Hmm.
So going in, I was like, okay, this could be just like a small group of people that have no idea what they're doing. And it might be a complete mess. But like I grew up watching Survivor. So obviously the thought that I could actually play the game on campus was really exciting for me. Um, yeah, walking up that first day, I was definitely very nervous, not knowing what to expect. And yeah, it was very unique first day, like not knowing what was going, like being familiar with the game and not knowing what College Survivor was going to look like completely.
Yeah,
um yeah.
for sure. So as we got into it, of course, we had the temptation twist, and no one from your Tigers tribe took it. How close were you to thinking about taking it? What was your thought process as that was pitched to you? And then what did it really do for the tribe as no one took it? And kind of as you saw Gihan have two people take it.
Yeah, so initially, just like initial like thoughts on my tribe, like I felt like Dawson and MJ were like super likable, super sociable. Megan was pretty like taking kind of a leadership kind of position right away too.
Okay.
And then I definitely felt like if I took it, I could easily be someone that they would just target anyways if we lost. So I
Mm,
didn't want to like risk that chance of us going to tribal right away too.
yeah.
But I did seriously consider taking it. Just knowing the show and knowing like what kind of advantages are out there, I was like, oh, I kind of felt like it was going to be an idle clue.
Hmm.
And I honestly thought that when Sam and Nicole both came back, like their demeanors changed. And I even told them this afterward that like I thought if anyone took it, I was like prepared to like blame them. I was like, oh, definitely Sam and Nicole. But I
Yeah.
think it's just like everyone was just figuring things out on the first day, and some people were super focused, and some people were just open, and
Hmm.
we were all across the spectrum on that one. Um, but yeah, I was thrilled that no one from our tribe took it right away. Um, because that really built a lot of trust right off the
Yeah.
bat, which it usually takes a lot of time in Survivor.
Yeah.
Just having that initially was great. And hearing Gihan took it was like also huge because I definitely made it more interesting.
Yeah.
It would have been pretty boring if no one took it at all, but yeah, it was definitely even better for us having that leg up and knowing that we were already unified, kind of going in was really good.
Yeah. For sure. So we saw you, Tigers tribe really dominate the first two weeks. And we saw kind of as that first week went on that a lot of people were really timid to get into it. But we saw that that was not the case for you. And then also for Sam as well. Tell me your initial kind of strategy going into that first week and second week of the game, building connections with Dawson and Nicole, and kind of how those just naturally came about.
Yeah. So initially my plan going in was to lay low, but
Hmm.
like just seeing how like people were automatically drawn to like people like MJ and Dawson, I didn't feel
Yeah.
like people were automatically being drawn to me.
Okay.
So attaching myself to someone who's social like Dawson, I definitely thought was the best move I could make initially because I didn't
Mm.
feel like people were just going to approach me right off the bat.
Yeah.
And definitely that comment Ellie made initially about, oh, maybe the grad student should go on the other side. I was like, yeah, I definitely knew she was joking about it, but like
Yeah.
even in her confessional, like watching that back and seeing she had no intention of like working with me at that point either. Like
Hmm.
even though she thought it was nice, she already had written me off. So it's like I'm very glad that I made that move to like form that alliance with Dawson right away.
Yeah.
Just like kind of throwing my initial game plan out the window and doing that. And then forming that alliance with the alliance with Nicole and Dawson was just like something that naturally happened. I mean, that situation with MJ and Sam, which unfortunately did not make the episode because we lost the footage, but just getting that information that they were like talking, MJ, Sam, and Megan were talking. I didn't know how close they were. It seemed like an alliance based off of what I knew. And the fact that they wanted to target Nicole and Dawson right away, two people I really wanted to work with, was like, man, I could either just kind of like hide under the radar, just be like a goat, just go along with whatever right away, or
Yeah.
I could actually do something. And being such a big fan of the show, I wasn't the kind of person that wanted to just sit back and just like go with the
Hmm.
flow. I wanted to make moves, and honestly, like doing that initial thing, sticking my neck out. I mean, it definitely hurt me in many ways, but having Nicole, especially as an ally throughout the game, I
Yeah.
think it was definitely worth it going back. And
Hmm.
even Dawson forming that alliance, even though our alliance kind of wavered throughout the game,
Yeah.
just that move initially is something that I was really happy I did, even though the whole lying and everything that they threw back at me was definitely something I didn't consider the repercussions going in when I did that. But
Yeah.
yeah, the fact that I now see how much MJ and Megan lying about their alliance with Sam really hurt my game, not just with Ellie, but like with people in the future too, is kind of crazy. I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
see that coming
So
at all.
let's talk about that, kind of seeing it back and kind of seeing, hey, I was justified. I was right. These people were meeting. But then, of course, in the game, it really did hurt you. Kind of what were your feelings after the fact watching it back? Frustration, kind of just annoyed, or what was it?
Um, a little frustration just because I know how much it impacted my game moving
Yeah.
forward. It gave me little wiggle room with alliances and working with people.
Yeah.
Especially when people in Gihan just believed I was like a liar and something right off the bat, even though they didn't even give me a chance.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like even trying to reach out to Ellie, like I was genuine when I was trying to reach out to her.
Hmm.
And like I did hide the fact that I was already in alliance with Nicole and Dawson. And like I noticed in the episode it said I was like talking about manipulating her. And it wasn't the fact that I was lying, it was the fact that I tried to convince her to form an alliance with Dawson and Nicole, which I was already a part of,
Yeah.
without letting her know that. And it almost worked too. So that would have been great if it had worked out and she hadn't
Hmm.
talked to MJ. I think that would have been
Yeah.
really great for the game. But yeah, yeah, definitely crazy thing to happen early on. I'm
For
happy
sure.
that it made the game interesting right off the bat.
It's
Watching it
true.
back, it's a lot of drama and stuff that I love to watch as a viewer. But definitely not something that was great for my game at all.
Yeah. So we saw in that Sam vote, he gets the boot, but you did receive votes. Going into that vote, were you worried that it could have been you? And then coming out of that vote, what was your kind of thought process? Hey, I just received votes in my first tribal council. How do I move on from here?
I definitely think the way I handled the situation in the tower helped. The
Yeah.
fact that even though I was pretty confident that I was telling the truth about Megan and MJ and Sam, I
Yeah.
kind of pushed it off as like I misunderstood the situation. I apologized if I did misunderstand it, and just kind of like backing off, kind of like
Hmm.
maybe was disarming for them and made them less angry at me.
Yeah.
If I had been firm and like, no, I'm telling the truth, you guys have to believe me, I think I would have been gone that week, no doubt. Um, yeah, and I think the fact that like Nicole and Dawson definitely considered the fact that I was telling the truth, and that allowed me to still stay tight with them.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah.
So from there, you guys vote out Sam, but then immediately the game gets flipped on its head, and we go into a tribe stop situation. Tell me your initial thoughts as you see not just red and blue, but you see a white buff in there, and then you eventually end up in the newly formed Pashan tribe with yourself and probably one of your closest allies, Nicole, the person that you're least close to, Ellie, and then just some random guy from the other tribe, Ben. What were your initial impressions going into that new tribe swap situation?
I honestly wasn't too surprised it happened. I mean,
Hmm.
even throughout the beginning of the game, we all were pretty confident, like, oh, this week we're probably going to either both go to tribal council or something crazy is going to happen. So we all kind of knew something was going to happen soon because it
Yeah.
was getting close to what we would see as a merge. Um, Ending up on a tribe with Nicole was great. Ellie, obviously not the ideal situation for me. And of course, Ben was like a wild card. We had no idea what
Yeah.
he would be like. um, yeah, I think honestly, if things had gone differently and we had lost, like
Hmm.
obviously I wasn't doing well at that food challenge. We weren't trying to throw it. I mean, some people thought maybe that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
That was honestly something I didn't consider in the moment at all. I
Okay.
mean, it might have been smart, but I think it would have been me or Ellie going. I
Yeah.
think Ellie and I were two at each other's throats at that time. I think I would have definitely wanted her out. I think Nicole might have gone my way, and then Ben, who knows which way he would have gone. And then on top
Yeah.
of that, if they had given him an idol and he could have done something to mess that up too,
Hmm.
that could have been terrible. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty happy with how it panned out.
Yeah. So in that case, you think you would have chosen Ellie as your target above Ben?
Um, I think after meeting Ben and getting to talk to him, I
Yeah.
probably would have trusted him more than Ellie, because Ellie didn't even consider the fact that I was telling the truth. She just automatically believed MJ.
Hmm.
And she was just kind of so emotional when she was coming after me that I didn't see us having any chance working together in the future. So I think it would have been ideal. Like, I was happy when like the next couple people, when MJ, not MJ, when Megan and Garrett got voted out too, because I was like, okay, they're not helping my game. So I would have gotten rid of Ellie. I didn't really care about the numbers as much. I was like, yeah.
For sure. So in that week, of course, that's your first kind of interactions you and Nicole to have with Ben, and we did see that relationship play a factor later on down the line after the merge. Tell us about your first interactions with Ben and just kind of what made you and Nicole kind of drawn to him to be in an alliance.
Yeah, so Ben just came off as someone who is really honest, super focused on his game. Um, Definitely seemed like he was open about almost everything. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously he was hiding stuff, but it didn't seem that way at all to us. And like he wasn't the kind of person that would like attack people or like talk super bad about anyone. He kind of just
Yeah.
talked strategy, which is kind of something I was doing too, just talking strategy.
Yeah.
So he was just a really easy person to talk to and really easy person to naturally align with. I mean, he didn't seem like he was someone who was controlling anything. So he was also just an easy number too. And we knew that he was kind of on the bottom of his tribe based on
Mhm.
what he told us. So knowing that, it was like, okay, if we work with him, we automatically have an extra number. So it just seemed like a smart decision.
Oh yeah, for sure. So then the next step in the game, we go into the merge. Pashan comes in first. You guys are sitting there before we bring in both the Gihan and the Tigris tribe. Tell me kind of what you were thinking when you see that, hey, not one Tigris was gone, but two Tigris, and that it's an even 5-5 split, Gihan, original Tigris.
It was definitely surprising. I wasn't disappointed Megan went. I mean, I like Megan outside of the game, but knowing that she lied and knowing that she was very strategic and
Yeah.
smart, I was like, going forward with her was not in my best interest at all.
Mhm.
I had hoped that MJ would have gone too. I mean, this wasn't filmed, but walking back after we swapped to three tribes, I had talked to Alexa once in this entire game, one on one. And just walking back, brief conversation. I was just like, hey, you know, MJ's been doing some shady stuff. If you want to get rid of her, that'd be great. And nothing, obviously, she didn't listen. That didn't
Yeah.
happen. But I was like, hey, if MJ and Megan go, like, that would be ideal. If anyone from Tigers goes, it's best for me for the two of them. And then when Garrett
Hmm.
went, I was just like, I had never talked to Garrett one on one.
Yeah.
I had tried, but he just seemed so like removed from the game. And also when he was there, you couldn't really talk strategy. He was just kind of there.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, not a big deal. Obviously, it's hard not going in with the numbers, but it's like all the interesting people for the most part were still in, and it was still like a lot of good players that could make the game dynamic moving
Hmm.
forward.
So tell me at that moment going into the merge, kind of where did you see yourself in the game? And then what was your uh, plan and strategy to move forward in the game?
Well, my plan was instantly to start working with people on the other side. Like, I
Yeah.
love when Survivor mixes up and you work with people from all over the place. Unfortunately, the fact that we were only mixed up for like 1 week on different tribes, I think hurt
Yeah.
that a little bit. Um, but yeah, that first week I met with Liz right away and started trying to form a relationship with her.
Hmm.
And like I was honestly trying to work with her. We had talked about like getting rid of MJ and Dawson and Luke and Alexa, possibly forming a 5-person alliance with the rest of us. And that
Yeah.
was something I really wanted to move forward with too, even with um, still the 5-5. I was like, hey,
Hmm.
this is a good plan. I want to mix things up. There's people I want out for sure.
Hmm.
And I had her idea was for us to put all of our votes on Luke, and then she would potentially flip at the revote. And I had talked to my tribe about that, and they were like, we're not going to do that. We're going to vote for someone else just in case of another idol play,
Idle. Yeah.
which is totally understandable.
Hmm.
But I right away went back to Liz and I was like, hey, we're not doing this. Can't tell you what we're doing, but I still want to work with you. So I was just very honest with her, and I was hoping that that would show her that I really wanted to work with her. And of course,
Yeah.
I continued to work with Ben, talking to Ben, trying to build that relationship. Didn't really try to meet with. I messaged Liz and Luke, or not Liz, Alexa, Luke, and Nathan, but I didn't meet with them right away.
Hmm.
I never ended up meeting with Alexa after that initial conversation, and I never really met with Luke except for that one time. So there are definitely certain people that I saw as my ins to the other tribe, and there were still
Hmm.
people on my own tribe that I wanted to work with. But like going tribe strong was never something I wanted to do going into the merge.
Okay, yeah. So of course we have that 5-5 split, and we go to rocks. Um, Clearly, you weren't uh, going to be loyal to the Tigress, as you said. What ended up making you just say, "Hey, okay, I'm going to go and stick strong with this five for now"?
Well, in that situation, like no one on the other side was proposing anything to me at all. No
Yeah.
one had reached out to me. No one who was influencing their side of the vote. So like Liz never told me who they were. She did kind of warn me that they might be voting me,
Okay.
because she didn't want me to be totally mad at her. But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't really have any other options to flip. I think if they had approached me, I would have seriously considered it.
Hmm.
They approached Ellie, who is all about loyalty in the game. So
Yeah.
I think
Wrong.
that was a
Wrong
little
person.
mistake on their part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, with that 5-5, when we just that was all we had. We only had the numbers. We knew one of if I voted somewhere else and they lied to me, then I could have easily been voted out right
And
away.
you, yeah.
Um, so there wasn't any really strong, like I had some sort of trust with Ben and Liz, just a tiny bit working with them, but
Hmm.
like there was no other trust there. So it was like I just need the numbers right now, and that's all that matters when there's a 5-5.
Yeah. So we saw that week that you guys decided to vote Nathan. Of course, we know that you didn't vote Luke just in case of an idol, but why was Nathan the one that you guys set your target on?
Yeah, so I saw like watching the episodes back, I see how like they might have planted Nathan's name. And honestly, I think it might have been MJ's idea to vote for Nathan just because she thought he I don't even remember to be honest. I just felt
Okay,
like
yeah.
when we voted for him, it was more we thought that if it was a tie and we were going to rocks, we wouldn't care if
Hmm.
he was safe. It would be better if like Luke or Alexa went home.
Yeah.
So honestly for us, we kind of just saw rocks as something that was happening.
Definitely going to be yeah the case. Okay, yeah, that's smart. You make sure that the two people who are you most want to get rid of are uh, able to be draw that rock. And then in the case, you said that Liz kind of gave you a hint. Maybe you were getting votes. Was it a complete shock though that hey, why they're putting their target on me? Just like, do you think that was they were having the same kind of sense of Nathan that you guys had, or where do you think that kind of uh, why their target landed on you?
Um, Honestly, she had mentioned that they might be voting me, but I didn't know why they were voting me at
Yeah.
that point. Like looking back and seeing in the episodes just how Ellie planted that there with them. I had no idea where that was coming from with them, and especially in tribal when they were kind of coming after me when we were debating a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I like to debate people, so Alexa's like the perfect person to go up against in a debate at tribal council. But yeah, when they were kind of coming at me and throwing out all their reasons for getting rid of me, I was just kind of like, I have no idea why they're so
Yeah.
angry. And the fact that they threw out that like, oh, you're no one on your tribe just likes you at all. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that's true at all. And like
Yeah.
even Nicole turned around and was like, I'd never said that. And yeah, it was a chaotic tribal.
Yeah.
And I didn't really believe for a second anything that was coming from their mouths because it just seemed so fake and so made up. So yeah, that definitely was not great. And obviously at that point, I knew my back was against the wall too. And that kind of changes how you approach things because after when we
Yeah.
got to the revote, at that point, it's like I have gotten votes at two tribals. I that kind of changes how you approach getting votes at that point. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna call everyone out on their crap, and I'm just gonna go as hard as I can and hopefully save my game.
For sure. So at that point, like you said previously, you were starting to get those inroads with Liz and Ben to really start making good relationships. And it seems like that tribal council kind of squashed all of those as we cut to a confessional right after we see Nathan and Luke saying, Nate's got to go. He has to go. Where do you think kind of it went wrong in that tribal council? And then how, after the fact, were you planning to just try to do some maybe damage control and stuff like that?
The way I approached tribal, I think might have been a little different, just looking at how like fired up some people got after tribal councils. I kind of just treated each one as like a separate like debate situation. Then when I went back, I was like relieved that I made it through another tribal. And that's
Yeah,
how I was throughout the entire game, just because I was always someone getting votes. And like I said, that's kind of my change in perspective on like the whole tribal situation. After you get votes
yeah,
multiple times, it's like, oh, it's not a big deal.
yeah.
But like I think definitely the fact that I was one of the more vocal ones for my side, calling them out and being like, okay,
Hmm.
here's the flaws in your logic. Like, pick off Nathan, MJ, Dawson, and Luke because we're threats. Well, guys, why are you listening to them if you're also threats? Like,
Yeah.
it's stuff like that that I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let them slide with that kind of logic and let people just listen to it. And in a way, I think that the fact that I was stirring things up and people were getting more and more angry at them too, maybe prevented people from flipping on me as well.
Hmm.
So obviously it messed things up a little bit with like Luke and Nathan and Alexa, but I think it like firmed up the Tiger side of people who might flip too.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to make a comment. So, of course, as Survivor fans, throughout the season, I'm keeping up with voting history and stuff on the production side. And of course, we keep up with every vote where it each goes. And I will say that you had a staggering amount of votes against you. Like you said, you received a vote. Um, I think at every tribal council, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you went to. So people, the amount of votes that Nate Todd got during the game was 24. All right, 24. The next highest is Luke with 9. So from that point, uh, before you were voted out, you had 24. Luke had 9, and of course, you
Yeah.
nullified some of those with an idol. That's just absolutely insane, and the fact that you made it as far as you did with receiving 24 votes is very commendable. So, good
Thank
on
you.
you for being able to be a tribal council survivor. But we can move on to the next kind of vote, which was the MJ vote, and I think really we kind of saw some changes in your game,
Mm-hmm.
and things starting to really kind of go your way, where they were debating MJ or Nate. We saw the Gihan Alliance going either way. And then you and Nicole really solidified that 5-person alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what kind of the work that you did and put into solidifying a group that was at least going to be voting on your side for this tribal.
Yeah. So obviously like Alexa calling people out as targets at that tribal council kind of gave me a thought of like, okay, maybe I need to pull in all the other people and just like the people who aren't targets right now and just kind of unite them because
Yeah,
if at that point when we're down the numbers, there's no point trying to say Tiger strong. Like if I had known Nicole had an idol, maybe we could have done something to
yeah,
stir things up. But like we knew we were on the bottom, and I talked to Nicole, and I was like, the best thing we can do is flip on MJ and Dawson, let them go, so that we don't have numbers anymore, so we're not threatening to the other side at all.
hmm,
So yeah, I continued to push for that 5-person alliance that I had kind of talked to Liz about the previous week, and actually got everyone to come together aside from Liz that time.
hmm.
And yeah, I just kept pushing MJ that week and hoping that somehow, some way, like I knew that they might probably were going to be targeting me, but just making sure that someone else was a bigger target than me that week and just pushing
Yeah.
her in every way I could was all I could really do.
For sure. So we even saw something kind of right after you had that conversation with that 5-person alliance. We see Nicole, who's your biggest ally, start to distance herself from you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that was? And then kind of what was your feelings watching it back, being like, "Dang, Nicole, my girl is trying to put some distance between me and her."
Yeah. After that episode aired, some people were definitely like, "Oh wow, Nicole's really turning her back on you." And I mean, she had kind of warned me about like she was doing that kind of thing. I was
Yeah,
very vocal, not just at tribals but at challenges too,
yeah,
saying things pretty about Alexa and stuff, and nothing like too crazy, but enough that Nicole's like, "You need to tone it down." So Nicole always had my back, and
yeah,
she even at watching that like little meeting back when I kept using we statements about me and Nicole, she caught on to that right away and was made sure she squashed that in the
hmm,
best way she could. And after that episode aired, she even texted me. She's like, "Yeah, you know, I wasn't turning on you at that point, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. You were doing that to protect her. She was protecting her own game, and in a way, she was protecting mine too by separating
yeah.
us." So yeah, I fully support what she did. I thought it was a smart move.
Definitely. One thing that we didn't talk about early on, Nicole had an idol that whole time. Did you ever know about it until, of course, later on, or was that a complete shock for you?
I didn't know about it at all. Like I
Yeah.
had looked a lot for idols in the game,
Hmm.
especially initially. I never had a clue until the tower. That was the
Yeah.
only clue I had in the game at all. So I had put in a lot of work, but I never expected to Nicole to already have one. She
Hmm.
didn't mention it to anyone. Um, yeah. So Dawson was the first person in my mind to find an idol on our side.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I was like, okay, Gihan's finding all the idols, and that's just that.
Yeah, for sure. So from that vote, MJ does go home. You survive. You do get a vote from Dawson. But we kind of see some confessionals like, hey, like, I feel like I'm in a good position. I think I have a chance to make a run and get to the end of the game. Where did you see yourself and kind of what was your strategy moving forward? Was it with that 5-person alliance? Was it to be just more of a, hey, go where the power is, go where I can find a way? What was kind of your outlook at that point forward?
Yeah, so definitely after that tribal, I felt like they were working with me, even though they
Hmm.
weren't. You can
Yeah.
see that from their side, but I definitely felt that we all knew Dawson was going to be next, and I knew I was going to be safe at that point. And like my whole idea with Nicole to like let Dawson and MJ go so that we can go further
Hmm.
was definitely something that I saw as moving forward and going into action. And they had
Yeah.
every week, like Liz and Nathan like would talk to us about like, okay, eventually we're gonna have to get out Alexa and Luke, and sometimes they would come up to us and be like, hey, we're doing it this week, and then like last minute they would back off, which was so frustrating for us
Yeah.
because Nicole and I were like, people watching the episodes are like, oh, we wish you guys would have made more moves, and it's like, well, we are trying every week to make moves, and like
Being stonewalled.
you need numbers or an idol to make a move,
Yeah.
and Nicole had an idol, but I had neither of those things, so I was just doing the best I could. And yeah, unfortunately, I kept trying to pull numbers, and every time Gihan just kept going back to their side and just letting one
Yeah.
of us go each week.
Do you think if that, so of course we see that week play out, Dawson finds the idol. What was your kind of reaction when Dawson messaged you and was like, hey, we're voting Luke, we're getting this guy out. I got an idol.
Well, it wasn't quite so easy. I had an exam right before that tribal, and my phone was blowing up for like an hour before, and it was Ben, Nicole, Dawson, and Luke all messaging me. And
Hmm.
I was like, I had to sort through all of this in like 15 minutes between class and tribal. And it was like Ben telling me that they're splitting the votes to be so that I knew that I was getting 2 votes. Then
Hmm.
Luke meeting with me, Luke being like, hey, we're splitting the votes. And I'm like, okay, whatever, Luke. Like,
Yeah.
I just felt at that moment he was trying to get my jury vote in case I did go. Like, Luke didn't talk to me aside from that. I didn't trust him. And then when Dawson FaceTimed or called me and Nicole, and
Hmm.
he's like, "Yeah, I have this idol. We're gonna vote Luke tonight." And I remember being like, "I don't know if I believe you, Dawson." Like I fully told him, like, "I don't know if I believe you. I came here planning to vote for you tonight. I don't know if I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this or not." And Nicole was feeling kind of the same way. So after we hung up, Nicole and I were like texting back and forth, like, "What do we do? Do we trust him? Is Dawson telling us the truth?"
Hmm.
Um, and then ultimately I just decided like, hey, it's not worth the risk for me to not trust Dawson at this point. It's either gonna be Dawson, or if I vote for Luke, then it's gonna be Luke. Best
Yeah.
situation. And literally while we're lining up to walk into tribal council, Nicole's like, who are we voting for? And I whisper Luke to her, and then we go into tribal council. So it was like right before we walk in that we officially decided that we were going with Dawson on that
So
vote.
you guys didn't see the idol at all until he
I
showed it at tribal.
I didn't. I don't know if Nicole did, but I definitely
Okay. Yeah.
did not see the idol.
So a big leap of faith there. Uh, so at that point, Luke, one of the biggest threats in the game, is gone. Someone that you knew it was not going to ever be possible to work with. He was going to set in his ways to where he was going to play and where he was going to vote. And then, of course, the Gihan alliance kept siding with Luke instead of saying, hey, we're going to make the move this week. Uh, did you think that was kind of going to open the game up, or kind of what was your thought process from there? As Dawson now is the biggest threat left in the game, he doesn't win immunity. What can we do?
Um, I mean, right after that tribal, and after the challenge where Dawson lost again, it was all fairly straightforward, fairly
Yeah.
easy. Nicole and I would just be like, same thing as MJ vote. We're like, hey, we want to work with you guys, show you guys that we're willing to work with you. We're going to vote out someone from our original tribe. And that's how we approached with MJ. And then that's how we did it again with Dawson. We were like, yeah, he needs to go. And as much as we liked working with Dawson, it was like, yeah, if he makes it to the end, he's beating anyone. So it was like, yeah, we have to get rid of him. There's no question about it. And obviously, when like people proposed other ideas, we considered it, but it was never like a serious thing where it's like Dawson wasn't gonna be the vote that week for us.
Okay, for sure. So in that challenge, it was a little bit controversial because we had our superlatives. Everyone voted on these certain topics, on these certain questions, and you were voted the person that they would most not want to spend or be with on a deserted island.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, tell me what it was like kind of hearing that from your fellow tribe mates. And then what did it do kind of to your game and how you saw yourself moving on from there?
Yeah, so obviously at like tribals, I definitely felt like a lot of negative energy toward me. But that was definitely a wake-up call for
Yeah,
like, okay, everyone, there's definitely a dislike there. Because when I answered that question initially, I was like, oh, it's a survivalist
yeah,
question. Like, oh, who's the least helpful in a survival situation? And then
yeah,
when I realized it was no, you just don't like this person, I was like, oh wow, this is not great. And then I definitely felt like I was a little like, okay, whatever, guys. And then like
mm-hmm.
the more I thought about it, especially at the following tribal, where like the people on the jury were like thought it was hilarious that I got
Yeah,
voted last person to be stuck on a deserted island with. I was like, oh wow, does everyone actually hate me in this game?
mm-hmm.
Like I had no idea where that was coming from at all because
No,
I
yeah,
knew I was standing up for myself at tribal. I didn't know why people were so angry because I wasn't bold faced lying like some people were, especially
yeah,
Alexa and Luke. Like they were, it was very easy to be frustrated with them because we could see right through them. But I was
yeah,
being pretty honest with people as best I could. And I remember at one point saying like I could count all the lies I've told in the game on one hand, and like everyone thought, "Oh, that's ridiculous." Like, but
yeah,
I honestly felt that way about how I was trying to play the game.
mm-hmm.
And I definitely tried that to do more of that, especially after the tower incident, where I was like, initially I thought about being more manipulative and kind of a villain, but then after that, I was like, okay, no, I definitely have to try to be a hero in this game where I'm going to be like taken out immediately. So,
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, so from there, we see easily the biggest move of the season happen. A huge tribal council where people are running around, uh, shocked from Ben pulling out this fake idol. Of course, we know it's fake as the viewers now, but sitting there where you were, did you think it was real? What was that tribal like? What was your plan going into the vote? After all that had transpired, what did you think everyone else was doing? Just run me through that entire situation.
yeah, so leading up to that vote, it seemed pretty clear it was going to be a 3-3 split on Alexa and Ben.
Yeah.
We all knew that was happening, which is kind of why I felt safe right before tribal
Mm-hmm.
council. I was like, I might not get votes, and this is going to be crazy because I have
Yeah.
so many at this point. But Nicole and I were going in planning on doing the 3-3 split and then flipping on Ben. So we knew that we not both of us were safe. It wasn't split between us, and then we could just
Mm-hmm.
get out a threat. It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And then when he pulled out that idol, I was like, crap, this is not good for my game because I knew like Gihan was being so risk aversive with their numbers, with like aside from the rocks, they did go to rocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Aside from that, they kept their numbers, and I knew they were going to flip on and vote for me because there's no chance they were actually going to chance losing someone from their alliance. And
Yeah.
I was like, immediately, I think I might have been one of the first people to make a move when he started talking. I right away went to Nathan. I'm like, we have to put votes
Mm-hmm.
on him. It could be fake, or he could bluff and hold it till next week. You have to get it out now. And he agreed with me. And then I did the same thing, talked to Liz, made sure she was on board with that. Then I went
Yeah.
to Nicole and I was like, yeah, Nicole, we're still voting Alexa. We need to still put 3 votes on her just to make sure because we don't know, we can't trust them because they keep flipping on us every week.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, I think I definitely made a mistake there. I mean I whispered to everyone but Alexa, and it was just because we were so against each other. But I think I could have saved myself a little bit more by talking openly about it,
Okay.
being instead of saying everything in secret to people, whispering. I think if I had been like, "Hey guys, this could either be fake or he could be bluffing. We need to still
Putting
put
it out
votes
there.
on him." I think if even I had been willing to vote for him right away, and maybe Nicole too, and a couple people from their side, and they could have still voted for me, put a vote on me to be safe.
Hmm.
I think that would have been ideal, but obviously in the moment, I didn't think about that. I was like, there's no way Alexa's even going to consider working with me,
Yeah.
especially at that tribal. Like some stuff was cut out, but we were like yelling at each other, Alexa and I. It's pretty intense. It definitely built up across from the merge to where that tribal happened with between me
Yeah.
and Alexa. But yeah, I definitely was pushing really hard for us to still put 3 votes on Ben so he could go, because I was like, no one pulls out an idol right before the vote if they intend to play it.
No.
And no one wanted to listen to me. Everyone was like, "Oh, Nate's a snake. Don't trust Nate. Whatever." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah." Obviously, at that point, I kind of knew I was getting votes. And then going into the revote, like Nicole and I had discussed it, and I was like, "Nicole, I don't want you to go to rocks for me if it's that kind of situation," because I felt bad about Ellie, to be honest. Even though
Hmm.
Ellie wasn't working with me, I felt bad that she went trying to like save my butt, especially when I wasn't gonna do that for her. Like if
No.
they
Yeah.
would have voted for her, I would have flipped easy. Um, but yeah, I definitely didn't want Nicole to go out that way. And I knew Nicole had a chance. If I'm gone, it's like just Nicole and 4 people from the other side. Like, hopefully she can do well from that
Yeah.
point. But yeah, I definitely was like, okay, if I go, it's my time. I've gotten so many votes. Like,
Yeah.
it's over. Yeah.
For sure. Hey, I think that's a great point. I mean, like you said, Gihan has been so risk averse in everything that they've done. Uh, Overkill with splitting votes. I mean, Luke at the very beginning splitting votes, even on his alliance members to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that really bled through the entire game. And they were so risk averse that they wouldn't even listen to the most logical argument is that we have to flush it even if it is real. And any Survivor fan would tell you if someone pulls out an idol before tribal council, they're either one not going to play it or two it's not real. So I think you had the exact right read. I think you were probably the only person that had that read. So kudos to you for being able to see through that and also trying your hardest to get people to see correctly and see logically. But of course, sadly, even through the logic, it still led to your being voted out. As you were voted out, as you came down off that high of a crazy tribal council, what were your thoughts just of the entire game, the experience as a whole?
Yeah, well, initially, like I know looking back, I can see some people almost like crying in their like exit interviews. I wasn't like that at all. I went into like a shock. Like
Yeah,
I didn't the jury wasn't there to talk to me because they didn't like me. So they left. And then my roommates weren't back at the room. So I just kind of sat in my room and just thought about it. And it was just a weird thing to not text Nicole after tribal council like I
mm-hmm.
almost always did. And to like just be like no stress all of a sudden
Yeah,
after being stressed out for like 9 weeks. Like it was crazy.
yeah, a
um
release.
yeah, I definitely had more of a chance to enjoy it like about a week later, but up until that point I'm like, I wish I was back in, but I'm like, it's a relief at the same time, so I was in a weird place with that.
Yeah,
But the whole experience was great. I mean, I made so many friends from playing, and like I got to have this unique experience that going to college I never thought I would have. Like
mm-hmm.
I was always a theater person before coming here to Liberty, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do shows here when I get here. Got a call back for one, didn't get in, then found out about Survivor, did Survivor instead, and like Survivor
Yeah,
has been my life here outside of like psychology since I started. So it's been a really awesome influence on my life, and just having these friendships and playing board games with people every week and being able to create this experience for other people in the following seasons has really been
yeah,
awesome as well.
yeah. Tell me about your kind of what you do now as a member of production and just your continued work within Survivor LU.
Yeah, so for the second season, I helped to like, well, going back to the first season, I helped to edit some of the challenges for season one, but I
Yeah,
definitely wasn't on like full production right away. I kind of was like in this like film crew slash storyboarding phase. And then
mm-hmm.
because of COVID, we moved online. So I stepped up more when we started doing our online stuff.
Yeah,
Became a full-fledged producer for seasons 3 and 4 and casting director. It's been really fun recruiting all these new players and being able to create new challenges like our
mm-hmm.
season 4 that we're working on right now is really exciting because we're putting in so many brand new challenge ideas, and it's been working out really well.
That's awesome.
I'm just excited for people to see in the future where we're going with this, and I'm just excited to see what happens with it. I mean, I'm graduating this semester, So to see where Survivor LU goes in the future is really going to be cool. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping to still stay super close with everyone I played with and everyone who's been a part of the community since season 1.
Dude, that's awesome. It was awesome having you on the season. You were nothing short of entertaining. I think like kind of I've done this for every player. The moral of your story, who you were as you were a player who stood up for themselves, who played hard, didn't take the easy route at all. Like you said, you weren't going to be a goat. You weren't going to be pushed this way or that way. You were going to make your own path. You were a player who got the most votes. And right now, being aired Survivor LU history. So I love that. And you just stuck to your guns, which is completely to be respected. So, dude, it was awesome being able to watch you play. I appreciate and thank you for what you're doing for the community now and continue to do. So we appreciate you for that, man. The newest episode of Survivor LU is taking 1 week of a break. So this Thursday, make sure you check our season recap with all of the members of production. And then April 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will have the finale of Survivor LU Genesis. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be an epic finale. We're excited to see who will take home the title of Sole Survivor. And Nate, we're glad that you were able to be a part of the season, man. Thanks so much, and we'll see everybody else later. Peace.